Shadow's pause wasn't random, something in the crowd had captured him completely. As Ryan followed the direction of his partner's gaze, he noticed a woman in a bright blue coat moving with a determined, almost rehearsed stride. But it wasn't the woman who held Shadow's attention, it was the two children being pulled along behind her. Their steps were uneven, dragging lightly as if every movement weighed them down. Neither of them lifted their heads, not even once, which was unusual for children in a busy airport filled with noise and lights. Shadow didn't see excitement or curiosity in their posture, he saw fear. A quiet, buried kind that hides in the way a child holds their shoulders or stays too still. Every detail sharpened in Shadow's mind, the tight grip the woman kept on the boy's wrist, the younger child clinging to a worn stuffed toy, the unnatural silence surrounding them despite the chaos of the terminal. While the world around them continued rushing forward without noticing a thing, Shadow's instincts locked on with absolute certainty. Whatever was happening, those children were not walking beside her by choice. And that single truth pulled Shadow toward them like a magnet. It began like any ordinary day inside the airport, the kind where no one pays attention to anything except their own schedule. People moved in steady waves, rolling suitcases behind them, sipping half-finished coffees, checking flight boards without even looking up long enough to notice the world around them. The usual mixture of footsteps, conversations, and distant announcements blended into that familiar airport hum, a sound Shadow knew as well as his own heartbeat. He had walked these halls with Officer Ryan countless times, memorizing every scent, every rhythm, every pattern of normal life. But today, something invisible slipped through that routine, something that pressed softly against Shadow's instincts like a whisper only he could hear. It wasn't loud, and it wasn't obvious. It felt more like a sudden chill cutting through warm air, a sense of fear so faint that no human would have recognized it. Yet to a trained dog like Shadow, it was unmistakable. His steps slowed, his muscles stiffened, and his ears rose with quiet alertness. While everyone else kept rushing past, unaware of the danger quietly unfolding, Shadow already knew the day was about to change. Sometimes the first sign of trouble is felt, not seen. Back in the small airport office, the chaos of the terminal felt like a distant world. Here, everything was quiet, warm, and safe, something those children hadn't felt in a very long time. The younger one held onto a worn stuffed toy with both hands, gripping it so tightly it looked like he feared it might disappear. The older boy, still shaken, leaned gently against Shadow's side, finding comfort in the steady rise and fall of the dog's breathing. Shadow didn't move, didn't shift, didn't even blink too much, he simply stayed there, a solid presence of protection the way only a loyal dog can be. Officer Ryan knelt beside his partner, running his hand along Shadow's neck with a kind of pride that didn't need words. He understood better than anyone that this outcome wasn't luck, wasn't coincidence, it was instinct, training, and a heart that refused to ignore a child in danger. The officers handling the case exchanged quiet glances, all silently acknowledging that without Shadow's intervention, the story would have ended very differently. As the children slowly relaxed, their fear melting into exhaustion, one truth settled over the room with unmistakable clarity: sometimes the strongest heroes are the ones who never speak at all. Inside the private security room, the atmosphere shifted from noisy confusion to a heavy, tense silence. The woman's confident posture began to crack the moment she realized Shadow wasn't acting on a mistake. Officers moved calmly but firmly, separating her from the children, and for the first time since Shadow had spotted them, the older boy lifted his head and allowed himself to breathe. His hands shook slightly as he clutched the edge of the chair, and when an officer gently asked if everything was all right, the truth spilled out with a trembling courage. "She's not my mom." The room seemed to freeze. The younger child's eyes filled with tears, and the weight of their fear became impossible for anyone to ignore. Officers examined the woman's documents, and piece by piece, her story unraveled: fake IDs, inconsistent travel plans, details that didn't match. She tried to protest, tried to maintain her calm facade, but the truth was no longer hers to control. Shadow lay near the doorway, watching every movement with steady, knowing eyes, as if he had been waiting for this moment of revelation all along. And when the final confirmation came, everyone understood just how close these children had come to disappearing. As the woman continued guiding the children toward the security checkpoint, Shadow's pace changed from steady to urgent. His body lowered slightly, his breaths deepened, and the tension running through his frame told Ryan everything he needed to know. This was no longer suspicion, it was certainty. The line ahead moved slowly, people chatting, unloading bags, unaware that danger stood only a few steps from them. Shadow pushed forward, weaving around legs and luggage with a determination that made Ryan tighten his grip on the leash just to keep up. The woman handed her documents to the agent with a smile that looked too polished, too practiced, the kind of smile someone wears when they've rehearsed a lie. And right then, in the middle of the quiet exchange, the boy lifted his head just long enough for Shadow to see the terror in his eyes. That was the breaking point. Shadow lunged forward and released a sudden, explosive bark that cracked through the entire terminal like a thunderclap. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Heads turned. Even the woman froze. Shadow planted himself firmly between her and the children, refusing to let her take another step. Sometimes a single bark can expose a hidden truth. As Shadow continued watching the children, the older boy suddenly made a small movement, so subtle that almost anyone else would have missed it entirely. He lifted one hand and pressed it flat against the woman's back, not in a playful way, not like a child seeking comfort, but in a still, deliberate gesture that carried a message far louder than words. It wasn't a wave, it wasn't a stretch, and it certainly wasn't accidental. It was the kind of silent signal a child gives when he can't speak, when fear has sealed his throat but hope pushes him to try anyway. Shadow recognized it instantly. His training had taught him to read distress where others saw nothing, to detect emotion hidden between breaths and movements. The boy's fingers trembled just enough to reveal the truth he couldn't voice. That tiny press of his hand was a plea, a coded cry for someone, anyone, to notice him. And in that crowded airport where hundreds of eyes passed over him without understanding, only one pair of eyes did. Shadow responded without hesitation. In that single moment, the boy had reached out for help, and Shadow knew he had no choice but to answer.